deposit to protect the innocent. All right. Now we're going to get your personal opinion, and you don't have to say anything that may jeopardize the position of stats.
I'll be objective. Just very objective. There's no question Bill Belichick is the marquee name. Oh my gosh, the whole country is talking about this. I mean, Bill Belichick, one of the most successful NFL coaches in the history of the league. The thing I'm concerned, personally, not speaking for anybody else, personally, is the man's in his early 70s. I'm not sure he'll buy in to be a collegiate coach. Personally, I'd love to see a young, dynamic, intelligent, bright head coach who wants to embrace the student body, who wants to embrace the university's history, culture, traditions, and who brings an electricity to the football program that makes people want to be there, want to buy tickets, want to support it. Now, can Bill Belichick do that? And then there's the stipulation that we're hearing about. He stays around for 2 or 3 years, and then he wants to hand it down to his heir apparent, his son.
Now, he's never been head coach, though.
I think he's been an offensive or defensive coordinator for several teams. And it's not to question him. Bill Belichick's dad was an assistant coach at Carolina back in the early 50s. So, there's some on the edge tendencies of.
Do you think we have some blurring of lines as to what a college coach?
Well, I'm sorry, Greg.
I was just going to say, does that exist anymore?
Right.
Does the college culture exist anymore at all?
I mean, Belichick in the last week has gone on there publicly and said, I'm going to treat this as an NFL function.
Right.
And he said, if I got a job at a college, didn't mention USC, but he said, if I got a job at college, he said, if, I'm letting you know, the education is going to be how those guys can survive after the NFL. That's going to be the education. He goes, I'm going to be detailed about what they eat. They're going to have a nutrition plan. I'm going to watch how they work out. There's going to be a workout plan. I mean, he goes, I'm not saying that they're going to be good enough to play in the NFL, but they're going to be prepared to.
Well, the NIL is, I don't want to hear a student athlete anymore. She will, except maybe for Olympic sports. Maybe I'm being too rah-rah old school.
I just don't know that exists anymore.
Because it does in the Olympic sports. I would agree.
No, Olympic sports are different. But the fact of the matter is, if you're playing D1 football or D1 basketball at a Power 5 level, you're not choosing your school, except in very rare cases, on this is where I'm going to get a good education. You're choosing the school just like the kid who turned Carolina down to go to Brigham Young to play basketball for $7 million.
Well, and there's where it comes up. Greg makes a great point. In the Power 4.
Right.
Because we lost the Pac-10.
Right.
Or Pac-12. So the only Power 4. A few years ago, the ACC made a conscious effort to try to elevate its football programs, facilities, advertising, everything. Because we thought, and this is me again speaking, not officially, we just thought, basketball will take care of itself. I mean, that's what basketball put this conference on back.
Yeah.
But the SEC not only had that tons of money, deep pockets, they had left over. And now what they're doing in the last 2 or 3 seasons is sending that money into their basketball programs, as evidenced by the most recent SEC, ACC basketball tournament. There was men and women. The ACC got punched to the nose.
They only win one game, one or two. Duke won.
I think the women won 5.
Auburn's basketball 20 years.
Well, look at the top 20 and tell me where the ACC teams are. They're not there like they are in the SEC.
This year it's Duke and
nobody else.
And Carolina could drop.
Yeah, and one of the things that frustrates me about this is you hear a lot of grumbling about Hubert can't recruit. I'm in awe that we've got Cadeau, Jackson, and Powell, given the pathetic budget, and I don't mean pathetic in any way other than compared
relatively
to the other teams that are out there paying people.
When I saw BYU it's the #1 recruit in the country, and I was like, BYU?
Well, that's just it. Kids no longer want to go to a school filled with banners and tradition. They're going to go, as human beings will. What are you going to give? I can go there.
And as much as you care about tradition and the school heritage, coming out of a house where you made $12,500, you would have taken the $7 million and wouldn't have cared where you'd have gone to Duke for $7 million. Yeah.
Well, I was accepted at Duke.
But you,
I had to pay my own way to school. That took care of that.
There's talk about investors and billionaires buying 49% of college teams.
What about the guy giving all the money to Michigan because his girlfriend is a Michigan fan?
Yeah.
They don't even have any alliance.
But they're going to start investing in these schools, and then it's pure business at that point.
So what happens if we give you, Eric, a couple million to play, but then your stats for that season catch up? Do we then go, we want like,
Well, isn't that going
we'd like 50% of that back?
well, think about
isn't that going to change in a few years, like 2 or 3 years, where he might actually have to give some of that money back?
Well, NFL has performance contract.
Yeah, there may be ceilings.
there's a bonus, but there's not a clawback in the NFL.
No,
But
it's a bonus for performance.
right, and think about what happened at UNLV this year and happened at State last year. Quarterbacks start out the year, they're great players, they don't have the NIL money, they renegotiate their contracts after the third game, or in these cases failed to. Coach cuts them off, changes quarterbacks. That happened to UNLV this year, happened to State last year, or maybe 2 years ago.
I might know of a school that fired their coach in the middle of the year, had an interim coach, was interviewing other coaches, but then they started having some success, and the quarterback went to the athletic director and said, if you don't make this interim coach head coach, I'm out of here. That's what the quarterback said at a college and university.
And keep in mind that in the pros, you have a multi-year contract, but it is the NCAA itself that has limited these to year-by-year contracts. And so, for example, we have a family friend. She was a softball player in college. Plays the first year, does well, comes back the second year, blows out her hip. And I'm not going to name the university. I'm not getting these people in there. But blows out her hip, and they cut off her grant aid, gave it to somebody else. So she had to quit college because the money wasn't there. And I know personally of 2 times that happened. One of them a Northwood grad.
What really drives me wild is the amount of public condemnation when a player decides to not play in a bowl game. Or they're like, he owes that. Da, da, da. You're asking that person to risk everything. They have to do something to protect that person. There's no blame whatsoever on that kid when he's got an entire family that he's to perhaps support.
Got another 5 minutes?
I mean, there's just no way you can make me feel
This whole thing, I mean, the agents involved as well. I remember my friend that I worked Saturday Night Football with back in the 90s for ESPN, Mike Godfrey, who was a coach at Kansas, head coach at Pitt. Once he was talking about agents, and this is, my God, 30 years ago. He compared agents to buzzards, and he got a big pushback. And his next press conference is the first thing I want to talk about. I've taken a lot of heat about that comment. I apologize to every buzzard in the sky.
It's unfair to the buzzard.
Yeah, putting buzzard down like that is terrible.
We were talking about Northwood High School. We had a Northwood graduate. Were you at the Alabama UNC game?
ESPN sent me to Auburn.
Oh, okay. So you weren't there. But have you had a chance to look at Drake Powell?
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, I've worked several games in Carolina. I'll be at LaSalle, Carolina, this coming Saturday. That kid's doing well.
Yeah.
Right. People do not understand the jump from Bristol ball to collegiate ball at that level is quite a jump, and he's doing extremely well.
And look at who he's had to play over. It's not like he's playing a bunch of scrubs. You're playing Kansas, You know, Alabama's a good team. Auburn's a good team. Go down the list. He's not playing second-rate teams, playing top talent.
But he's also averaging 24 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Andrew Jones, when I talked to him at the beginning of the season, said he's got potential, but I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. But he's getting that playing time because
He is.
he's not hurting Hubert when he's in there.
And he's playing
And
great.
he's got to win that. You don't play for Hubert. You didn't play for Roy or Coach Smith unless you proved it in practice. So that speaks volumes about his work ethic in practice, giving Hubert and his staff the chance. This kid deserves to be on the field. Good for him.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
that was on there.
Oh, was that? Okay. We have to now have an agenda because the women in
His mother.
His mother, oh, that's right, his mom.
I think just public feedback in general. You guys are a little bit ADHD.
No, it's his mother.
Yeah, it was my mother.
Well, your son did well. I mean, he's a good man. I'm just flattered that I'm in the presence of three Chatham County
You're famous.
It's in Chatham County.
royalty.
Let me ask you this question. You've been doing this a long time. I've been taking pictures for over 20 years. You see young people come up, and there's a lot of talented young people that are interested in starting. But I see some of these people who have the talent but aren't willing to put in the work.
As in playing a sport or
Media, photography.
part of that is, with technology, the whole thing of entitlement, the whole thing of immediate gratification. All I ever knew is you want something, you got to work hard for it. And that's my advice to a lot of people who come to me. I want to be a statistician. I want to do this. And I try to explain this. Well, what are you doing in high school right now? Well, I'm not really doing anything.
Well, if you're not, you won't.
Well, you need to get yourself involved.
One of the best pieces of advice that I've ever heard. You show up, and if somebody asks you, you volunteer.
Yeah.
And that gives you so many opportunities. I mean, people want what you have, but they don't want to do what you did. And you were asked many, many times to do something, and you said yes, and look what happened.
The lifespan of people at the national level for broadcasting are for playing.
Yeah.
You don't put in the time. You make 2 or 3 mistakes. You make an announcer look bad. You make a producer look bad.
Yeah.
You have the life expectancy of dogs who chase cars.
And that's what he's thinking when the Tar Devils came.
Yeah, actually, did you for a second, did someone call you in and say,
Fortunately, the producer, Rob Reichley, who's a dear, dear friend, and still the executive producer of Raycon Sports in Charlotte, never said a word. He knew that all of us in what was called the back bench were just dying.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say this. That has never, ever happened again.
well, I was going to say consistency is important as well, because you're saying, you could be good at something, but if you're not consistent at producing it, why should I, as a...
You're always as good as your last one.
And, exactly.
But, I mean, that wealth of experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not your first rodeo.
And it's amazing. Once you do something, the networking. That's another thing I say. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're the manager of the team or you're the scrub on the team. Whatever you do it with all of your mind, soul, heart, and body. Because you never know who's watching.
Yeah, right.
You never know.
And you look at the connections in this group because of the way the world has worked. And that's worked for him like you wouldn't believe. Because, without being too... the guy is a rock star. If you're, think about walking through or walking down Franklin Street. There are 50 years of kids who are like Freddie Kiger, Freddie Kiger, Freddie Kiger, Freddie Kiger.
I'm just glad nobody flips any birds across the park.
And I just remembered something else. He played tambourine with me.
You played right down on Franklin Street. You brought your trombone, and we played.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, can we get a tambourine at the thrift store and I'll bring it out to him during a Saturday
The song I
summer.
remember most, the fishing pond.
The fishing hole.
The fishing hole. Andy Griffith. We made $17.50 in about 30 minutes.
I mean, it's quicker than that. I would make $200 in cash in 2 hours on Franklin Street in 1980.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable. But he ended up playing tambourine, and I'm playing these TV theme songs. But what's crazy is there's a comedian by the name of Stephen Wright.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Stephen Wright is walking down the street, and Stacey Guest was playing with me that day. And he says, you know, in his way, man, that's something. And me and Stacey ended up doing 4 shows opening for Stephen Wright playing those scenes.
That is so cool. That's so, but you know, talking about opportunities, I started out with Jim Hebner at the Tar Heel Sports Network, WCHL 5,000-watt AM station, flagship of the Tar Heel Sports Network, in 1978. All of us who were making $5 a week.
Mhm.
Mick Mixon, who went on to become
Panthers.
Jim Lampley,
Mhm.
top 12, 13, 14 Olympics, the face of HBO boxing, Skip Foreman, AP, Dragan Mihailovich, who now is a producer for 60 Minutes. My goodness,
Right.
the talent pool. And it was Dragan who remembered my history background and athletic background, who in 1988 was the one who made the phone call and said, look, I've been promoted to a certain level of Olympic coverage. I need somebody to cover the opening and closing ceremonies of the Calgary Olympic Games. Would you do it? And I worked with Jim McKay and Peter Jennings, and I was nervous as all get out. But essentially, I worked for an entire year, not kidding, one entire year for a 2.5-hour live show. And things went incredibly well. I cannot tell you the doors that opened because of that experience. One thing leads to another. People noticing and remembering and watching. But you gotta pay the dues, and regardless of what it is, do it as if it's the most important thing that you're about to do in your life.
And going back to the contact, just sitting there texting isn't enough. It's the personal connection to make this.
Every Olympic I did, I not only talked to the performers and to the marquee names. You know who I got the best information from? The guy who opened the door for me. The guy who cleaned up afterwards. The people who were the blue collar, you were workers, who would take me aside and tell me, hey, I saw this, I heard this, you might be interested in this. They were the ones who just would open up and want to share. I got more great stuff than them every time I did it.
I'd have to smile because I sometimes take pictures of those people. People go, who is that? I go, those are people working. They're
People
working
who makes it happen.
making it happen.
Amen. They're the glue.
All right, got any final advice here before we wrap it up?
No, it's, thank you guys for letting me be with you. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
And thanks. It was a pleasure.
All right, folks, Freddie Kiger.
Thank you, guys.
We got to talk about pie before we leave. We're more than we can leave.
Yeah.
What's called?